Welcome back, Venturers. It's time for another discussion about VN. I am MR, and together with Tauros, we foretell that today's episode will be a weird one. I've seen it with my mind's eye, that the co-host wants to off me in Minecraft, so we want to talk about how such knowledge shapes a story. Tauros, I only have one simple question. Why?
You know, you're the one who keeps making the thumbnails. It's you who's getting your mileage out of that edited Luna sprite where she's like holding a knife or doing something evil, and it's you as S under the poor victim. You keep doing this to yourself.
Blame it on me. Don't blame it on the victim.
But no, this is a topic about precognition, about some visual novels where a character seems to have knowledge of the future, and it's a very interesting topic. MR, what can you say about this?
Well, the inspiration for it was about a year ago when I read a certain book in which one of the big points of revelation is when a protagonist gets a diary of his own adventures in the future that leads to the bad end. And the story shifts into how can I prevent the worst outcome? And that made me think, wait a moment. That, well, maybe not often, I keep running into similar themes in VNs and maybe some recently even in video games. But that made me think, the knowledge of the future can shape drastically the story, especially the one that actually can explore multiple endings. One thing that immediately came to mind is BlazBlue. BlazBlue was one of my first VN likes, for those who don't believe it's truly a VN. VNs that have multiple splinter points that explored, this kind of event transpired, and now there exists, I don't know how to say it, there exist people within that story with the knowledge of how it should have gone, and they are kind of guardians of time. More or less. It's convoluted, okay?
Oh, definitely. Mm-hmm. So these people, these guardians of time, they have visions of the future, and that's what they're trying to prevent?
Yes? Question mark. Because while I do sell it saying as a guardians, I feel the role is also as a curator, maybe it's a better word, because they try to find the best future they want to accept, and anything else goes back to the start. The main cast of characters, they don't know that they have been doing that multiple times over and over again, but people outside of that kind of repetition try to create the best possible outcome.
Mm-hmm. And that's a common... go for it.
Yeah, that's one aspect of a time-loopy, timey-wimey kind of a story with some sort of governing body outside of it. That's one kind of a setup. Another one would be someone within a story gets the foreknowledge of what is going to happen. And probably the title I've read the most recently that used that narrative device has to be Gears of Dragoon, in which the protagonist party knows that they are kind of stuck in some sort of civilization loop of how civilization grow and die. That's interesting. The moment you know that is happening, or at least first scrapes of knowledge you've seen, it doesn't seem feasible. But then more and more things from that prophecy or divination comes through and like, wait a moment, we are heading in a very bad direction.
Because with any of these precognition, knowledge of the future moments, it's almost always a bad future. And that just instantly becomes the drama of the current story, is now, oh, how do we avoid this? That's almost always what you see in this kind of stuff, right?
Yes, exactly. That's because that creates drama. I don't think I've ever encountered the opposite, as if you got a recipe for the goodest and nicest of the ending and you try to uphold it.
Because after all, it would be very deflating to read a story where you get a vision of the future and everyone's happy and smiling and all your dreams are accomplished. And then you come back to current events and it's like, okay, now what? I guess I just sit on my ass and wait for this happy ending to come, right?
Wouldn't you be angry at that point? Wouldn't you be angry for the game spoiling itself?
Exactly. And, in that vein, that's kind of something I wanted to ask you. How much of that can you think, is a spoiler?
I think as much as you consider foreshadowing a spoiler, I feel like. Because this is not that far removed from a foreshadowing. Obviously, it varies because depends on how vague you are with that presentation. You may overtly say, I see with my third eye in the cosmos how the events will be unveiled. And that's pretty much direct. But if you are vague enough, you can obfuscate and reward patient and careful reader that they put the pieces together. And now they say, wait a moment. I've heard this story before by reading what is happening right now.
And that's a good point about the foreshadowing, because the foreshadowing is always a hint of what's to come. There's a lot of uncertainty with it. And I think every time you have these future visions, the idea is that it's always unreliable. It's never treated as an ironclad, conclusion of what will happen. And even then, in some stories where it is, the entire mission becomes, well, not this time, we're gonna break it. And again, there's still the doubt.
Think about this. Think about that. The idea of a doubt is because you can't prove it. You can't really prove it. It's set in stone. Even if that prophet prophesizes a few key events and to come to pass, you have no logical or scientific basis for the third one to also come to pass.
Yeah, and
so there's always a doubt.
Exactly. Yeah. There's the one title I wanted to mention that perfectly fits in this is Never 7. The very premise. Our main character is on an island field trip with a few classmates, and then he realizes he's getting random visions of what will happen in the future. And a few times, he gets a vision and then like 5 seconds later it happens and he's like, whoa, wait, what's going on? But, the most worrying one is that he has a vision of a future of someone dying, one of his classmates dying. And that's his goal. He has to discover who it is that's going to die and how he can prevent it. And that's what leads the entire common route and into the character routes as well. And just like you said, is that it's not proven for a fact. Because you can't prove it. It's like, yes, he has a weird vision of the future, and then something immediately happens, like one of the girls slipping, or him realizing that they've run out of food. But you still can't prove that it's guaranteed to happen every time. And that's, the one thing that's keeping him going as he struggles to change the future and save their life.
I mean, the example you gave with the Ever 7 is taking that precognition or vision or something like that as a motivation, right? So you have a character-driven story with someone being motivated with what they saw in the dream, for example, and want to prevent it. As another part of how to incorporate with examples I gave, for example, with the BlazBlue one, is having that kind of system integrated in the world building itself. So you can go both ways, which is interesting that the same narrative device can be used on a vastly different scale.
A different scale? Like, what exactly do you mean?
Because you have a scale of a interpersonal precognition and or foreknowledge, and I have an example of the entire world being built upon someone has a lever that says, I don't like this feature, let's restart the game. No, that's what it is. They have a way to say, let's play New Game Plus again. I didn't like what you chose. Choose again.
Reload the save file.
Exactly.
Now, this is a question that might be beyond the scope of this, but I think it was an important one to ask. What about time loops? Right now, we're talking about precognition as in a character seeing the future. But in a time loop, in certain cases where, a character is going back in time, either once or repeatedly or however many times, now they know how events will unfold. It's not so much like they're envisioning how it will happen, it's they've already lived through this. And then they can either let events play out exactly the same, or they take different actions and, just one flap of the butterfly wings causes a whole hurricane. You know how that goes. But is that butterfly quite precognition? Is that quite the same in your mind?
You know what? Maybe in my mind it's not quite the same because the level of uncertainty whether or not that's true is removed. You've lived through that. You know for sure that would have happened had you not altered any choices.
That's a good point.
So if you talk about those kind of time loops from a perspective of someone who loops through time and retains that memory, I don't think that's as the same as the precognition. If you talk about time loops from the perspective of someone outside of the loops that have the knowledge of what transpired, and then you have the protagonist going back in time, forgetting what happened, and then he gets, let's call it a spoiler from somewhere from the bench, I think that kind of qualifies.
Interesting. But going back to what you said about the degree of certainty, when you have the precognition, seeing visions of the future, there's nothing to go off except a faith. But in a time loop, it's as you mentioned, the character, they lived through the events. They know what's happening. That's a really good point, and I think that's a big difference in how these two are treated.
By no means I mean to imply it's worse, it's just different.
Exactly, it's different. There's one title I wanted to mention, 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim.
Okay.
Which is really weird on many levels, not just the fact that it's kind of questionably a visual novel. In the story mode, there's 13 main characters, and they all have their own story modes, and they all take place in different character events and different time frames and la-di-da. But occasionally, the characters will find video clips of themselves, but much older, fighting some sort of alien invasion. And obviously, the characters are like teenagers when they see this, and yet it's unquestionably, it's them. It's their names, they look like each other, but, like 30 years older or so. And it's very much a what the heck moment. 13 Sentinels is just kind of all over the place in general, so we don't really get to focus on this as much as I would have liked or followed up the development. But the idea is still there, where the idea they get they are seeing knowledge of themselves in the futures. And I wanted to mention 13 Sentinels because almost every other time you have precognition, it's treated as some mystical fortune teller, strange visions kind of presentation. But 13 Sentinels has a very sci-fi outlook to it, to where it's like, hey, here's an MP4 file, and it plays a video of something that is certainly not happened yet, but will happen far in the future. It still has that layer of doubt between like, oh, well, what, where did we get this data? Is it forged? Is it real or something? But I just thought it was very funny to have more of a sci-fi backdrop for it instead of the, fantasy.
You know what? The moment you added sci-fi, I have another example to mention. One of the most detested and the one you hated the most.
Why do you say
I want
that?
to bring up Baldur's Sky that has subtle hints of some sort of a precognition that first feels so eerie in an otherwise scientifically based story about the web and how internet became ever present and even changing to virtual reality, a second reality a lot of people are living in, but has some sort of a mystique and some sort of a precognition vision of the future kinda undertones that you follow through. And the most intriguing part of that game is it is reactionary. That kind of vision and the precognition you are chasing keeps changing with the choices you make. And the character always think, is that better? And just to also clarify, the protagonist, doesn't remember the different timelines and or choices from other playthroughs, obviously. But whenever he is faced with that reoccurring precognition, you, the reader, the player, recognize, wait, the pattern changed. This precognition that you as a reader remember from a different story bits is completely different now.
That's always a top 10 moment. It's when you're reading a story and the character thinks they have all the events figured out, and then the rugs get pulled right under them.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, wait, no, it's not allowed to change again. When did that happen?
Exactly.
It's like, oh, that's so good.
More so interesting because you won't experience that because you refuse to read good VM.
Oh, shush. I don't have any plans for Baldur's Sky. It's like, especially not with you beating it over my head as often as you do. Aye.
It does have, if you squint enough, have some vague doctor/nurse in it, okay?
All right, we're moving on.
Oh.
And under the name of time loops, of course, I have to mention Virtue's Last Reward. It's a great title about a whole bunch of people getting kidnapped and taken into an underground facility, and they all have to play some sort of sick game by the mastermind, involving lots of alliances and betrayals for only some or maybe all of them to escape with their lives. It has a lot of choices, and as such, the VN gives you a big old branching flowchart of all the choices you make along the way, all the different events that transpire, all the different endings you get. But why I'm mentioning it here is because as you bounce around the flowchart and you see different routes, our main character gets hazy visions of a different universe sometimes. He gets like mixed up info of what's currently happening. He'll be in a situation and then he'll just kind of get some weird headaches, and you get the flashes of CGs from completely different routes. And he's wondering, what the heck was that? What am I seeing? And you as the player would realize that, oh, wait a second, that's, something that happened in a completely different timeline. Why is it showing up now? And it's like, very interesting. And so it's a weird case of the main character kind of suffering, in a sense, from the player just exploring a visual novel with multiple choices to its fullest potential. things get weird, and our poor main character is a fish out of water. And you slightly know better, but like I said, the poor main character is along for the ride.
Regrettably, I haven't read the early 999 entries. I've only experienced the Zero Time Dilemma. The amount of quantum fuckery there is borderline the precognition level, especially with advent of those escape room / dev games that they are subject to. Probably with the most memorable one I remember is Cooperate or Betray game, something like that. And if you choose to betray, that's the one I remember, your opponent who played with you chose to cooperate, and then you feel so bad, oh my god. Because while you survived, they didn't. Okay, so you're like, okay, fine. So I need... Now that I know they will cooperate, I'll also pick cooperate. And if you pick cooperate, they'll betray. I'm like, my mind was just like...
Yep. And the
quantum fuckery in that game was so...
The main character sitting there like he just got put through a washing machine. Like, wait, no, that's not right. And people are like, what the hell are you talking about? And it's like, but last time, there wasn't a last time. Like, as he's having a headache. And you, the player, you know what's happening. It's just you made a choice and somehow the other character's actions changed. But, our poor main character doesn't know that. Oh, man, it's so good.
Yeah. It was something. The fact I remember to this day how I was just lost at that point. Like, huh? That shouldn't happen. I was so baffled.
Any other examples on your mind?
From Zero Time Dilemma?
Oh, no, just of anything involving precognition. Ooh.
Listen, I have few. I'm not sure if I feel comfortable divulging, right? Because a lot of them are spoilers, right? I feel like the BlazBlue has tested that precognition from so many different angles. Because while I focus on talking about the governing body with the lever of restarting the story and booting you back to main menu, please make better choices. They also exhibit the other kind of precognition in the same game, in which one of the characters will tell you the story, which is exactly the story you're playing. You may not be aware that's exactly that story, but you may slowly piece it all together. Essentially, you got spoilers that you didn't understand.
Ooh, that's always great. When the game is giving you spoilers, but you don't realize they're spoilers until the end.
Exactly, because the way it's told, you feel like, oh, okay, I know who's the hero, who's the enemy, who's the villain. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit the story. But if you shuffle around who's who, now it actually fits.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, that definitely had me going like, aha moment.
Yeah.
Aha, I got you.
So on that note, I guess, do you like visual novels that use this kind of foreshadowing? You kind of mentioned it earlier, but I mean, if it comes down to your preference, do you like it when you get these sorts of visions from the future that, in a sense, spoil what's coming up?
You know what? With VNs in particular, they have a very unique way of just exploring that. Think about it. Even if that kind of vision and or precognition and or information is unreliable and unverifiable, through your choices in the VM, you can explore them. That's not the case in book. That one book that I've been inspired by, that I read 1 year ago, I can't explore the world and or timeline, depending how you define that, that was the essential bad end within the diary, because the whole point of the book was to avoid that. In the end, contrary to that, you can present it because it's a medium with multiple choices. So ultimately, I really like when VNs experiment that. Now, to use the difference or maybe different kind of application that we talked about at the start, I think both I find intriguing. So precognition as a motivating factor for limited amount of characters, or maybe a single character, and or precognition as a core rule set for that fantasy world. Those are both interesting. Probably guessing, but then again, it's gross oversimplification. I like the world building one more, but then again, I need to now refer to a very advanced, new, modern language, because that kind of precognition is an MR slope, right? Is that the correct term?
And I'm sorry, say that again?
MR slope, right?
MR slope.
Yeah, isn't that popular right now to call a lot of things slope?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You're calling yourself a sloth, your own stuff. What year is it?
I mean, so precognition that is used to establish and or build rules and foundations is interesting, maybe slightly more to me than personal motivation, but I wouldn't say by much. Both are unique, especially within VNs that can actually explore all the outcomes.
If I had to pick, well, actually, just not even if I had to pick, I would say I do like when titles use that kind of foreshadowing and precognition. Mostly because if a title uses that, if a title shows it in their story, then it's for a purpose. It's going to be because this is a focal point of the plot, and all of the pacing is going to keep that in mind. Like, it's going to build up the tension. It's going to be a goal for the characters to resolve. It's going to, give a possibility, the drama of a turnaround. I don't think that there's going to be a title that randomly shows one of these, flash forward sorts of things, and then just forgets about it for hours on end. That would be pretty poor form. And so if you have like a book, an anime series, a visual novel, whatever, that has one of these, visions of the future, then that's going to play an important role of how the story plays out. And in those cases, yeah, I like it. I do think it makes the story stronger. I think it gives us some physical stakes.
I mean, it is that the precognition and or some sort of a divination / prophecy is a younger cousin of foreshadowing, or maybe older cousin of foreshadowing. This is kind of similarly used, right?
Yeah.
To build intrigue. I remember to this day when I was speaking with Ange about a title I've read, I've seen a dialogue that I felt, no way, no freaking way. This dialogue is so much deeper than just a passing remark. I send it to him. I know what they are doing, and Ange is, I refuse to answer that. I'm like, we're cooking.
Exactly. So it's like, I guess it feels like a bit of a cop-out to say, oh, I like it when it's done well. But something like this, it's like, I feel like it's always going to be done at least half-heartedly. And hey, that's all I'm asking for. So yes, I do very much enjoy it. I'd be looking forward to more titles that have these kinds of precognitions of the future. So yeah.
Sky.
Me hitting the skip button.
Nice.
So yeah, all in all, I think that's a good point to wrap up the episode, huh, Emar?
Yeah. So thanks to all our listeners that stayed. And please tell us with the comment if you've ever experienced that kind of plot device and what's your favorite. And with that, VNture out.
VNture out.